Hey, how you doing? Austin Hilton here. In this video, we're going to be talking about bio-nano-genomics. This is an update video for those guys. There is some movement in the stock. We've actually been trending down a little bit. We need to get some positive catalysts coming our way. But then today, I want to bring you a piece of news that really reiterates the overall opportunity that bio-nano has. And there's some facts and some information in this piece of news that you may not be aware of that really does a good job of breaking down their business, their sales per unit, recurring revenues, how big their overall market opportunity is. Overall, it's a very good piece of information that I wanted to bring to you that I thought was newsworthy related to making an actual video for you. So that's what we're going to be covering in this. There's some positive information in this from the overall standpoint that if you are bullish on bio-nano and looking to buy and hold the stock for long term, I definitely think there's tremendous opportunity in this stock. I think that this is a $12 stock in 12 months if the company continues to execute and things go well. They've got a lot of work to do to get to that, and the Nasdaq has to work with us and all those kind of things. But currently trading at around $6.50. We've got to get through to the next level, which is really kind of that $7 range. And I think once we kind of break through that range, I think we're kind of off and running and looking forward to the future. So that's what we're going to cover today. As always, this video is for entertainment purposes only. And if you are new here, consider subscribing to the channel. Drop a like on this video. I would sincerely appreciate it. I'm a 30-plus year investor, and I have one goal, and that goal was to build a YouTube community here where we're all supporting each other and to help you make better stock decisions by bringing you news updates as well as stock tip ideas. I have a whole series where I bring you stock tip ideas that are momentum trending growth stocks that you've probably never heard of or really looked at. They're probably not on your radar. These are stocks that are hitting their 52-week highs. They're trending and they're just crushing it. I'll even drop a link to one of those videos at the end of this video, so you can go check that out. And I've got other videos. I cover crypto. I cover penny stocks. You name it, I'm doing a lot. Cover the EV space as well. I'll do a lot. I cover a lot of ground because I want to bring you a lot of value. So please become part of the community if you haven't already done so. All right, let's do it. Let's go take a look at bio-nano's chart real quickly, and then we'll look at the piece of information we got. Here we go. So as I mentioned, bio-nano is trading down today about 7%. And if you look at the overall kind of 6-month chart, you can see that we hit a low of about 538 here. We've been bounced back up. I think that's definitely our bottom line support, and from there the stock rallied up pretty nicely, rallied up 41%, and then from that is dropped about another 15%, kind of back down to where it's trading at today. So overall, in the last 6 months, it's produced a return of 1,144%. Yeah, I kind of wish I would have got in way back here. But, it is what it is. And as I mentioned, I think that this could be definitely a $12 stock, in the next 12 months, maybe 12 to 18 months, give or take. We've got to get through that kind of next support resistance level of around $7 per some of the tech analysis that I've done. And then I think from there, we should be off and running and kind of moving. But again, to have that happen, we've got to get some positive catalysts. We've got to get some press around the company coming out, stating that they've sold X amount more SAFR systems, things like that. There was a pretty major announcement that I covered in a video, I believe it was last week, where they did a pretty big deal in the UK. So I think that there's definitely momentum starting to build. But, if you kind of look at right now, like even right now, the Nasdaq is down 68 points today. The Dow Jones is down 19. This stock does react to overall market conditions. So kind of when the Nasdaq's down, etc. But again, we got to get some positive momentum moving forward. Okay, so what I want to bring to you today in this video is really talking about Bngo and kind of weighing the future prospects against the here and now, right? So here's what I would say up front. If you're looking at this as a short-term play, short-term buy, a day trade, a swing trade, probably not the right stock for you unless you're going to short it and all that kind of stuff. And I don't cover shorting. I'm not a huge believer. I just don't do that. If it's your jam, cool. But bottom line, this is more of a buy and hold long-term investment, 12 plus months out, 18 months. I think it's going to take that long of a runway or longer to continue to get movement. But what the company does is very, very unique in their technology. They've got some pretty revolutionary stuff. We're going to talk about their overall condition of their kind of market opportunity today. So we're going to cover a lot in that capacity. Okay. So again, the stock has benefited in some capacities. Kind of, we saw those ups and those downs. There's been kind of money coming back into kind of biotech stocks, kind of growth stocks, things like that. So it looks like the tailwinds, so to speak, are kind of starting to maybe turn our way. I realize today's a down day, but it could be, it could be the beginning of maybe a movement up. We've got to get, if you look at kind of a 6-month chart, we've got to get some up days kind of moving forward here. I mean, we're in a downward trend again, but we've already kind of seen that 527 seems to be our support level. I don't envision it dropping that low, but once we kind of can get 3 or 4 days of positive momentum back up, test that $7 range, I think we're kind of off and running. Okay, so again, that's short term, right? I'm just saying that that's kind of where we begin the runway to kind of begin to get some of those long-term returns, okay? And I think that's kind of really what I just talked about. It may be prudent to wait for further signs of success, being revenue growth, before committing, or positive catalysts, things like that. Depends on where you want to get in on the spectrum of getting in on the stock if you haven't already got in, or number 2, maybe adding to what you currently own. At this price point, if you believe in the stock long term, you could definitely be adding some shares at this price point if you're a buy and hold for 12, 18 plus months out in that scenario. I don't know if you know it, they IPO'd back in 2018. And so here's where this is why I brought you this piece of information. This was a really good piece of information talking about kind of their overall market and kind of what the market opportunity is. And I'll cut to the chase here, is that, the sales of the SAFR testing advice, along with its regular maintenance and support, is the predominant driver of revenue growth for Bionano. Obviously, there's a recurring revenue component in that, and when they sell a SAFR system, as well as in the initial purchase. Okay, so they have come out and said that the overall associated revenues for the overall market opportunity is $2.6 to $3.8 billion. It's a massive amount of opportunities. And if you don't believe those numbers, if you think those numbers are too blue sky, pie in the sky, whatever metaphor you want to use, then you can kind of say, okay, cut the number in half, right? I mean, it's still a massive opportunity from what their current revenues are. I mean, their current revenues are, what is it, 8.5, give or take? And they, I think they got impacted by COVID. They're coming back from the COVID, things like that. But overall, I mean, that's a massive market, okay? So if you kind of look at this, and this content right here is talking about this overall graphic here, right? So if you kind of take their numbers at face value, okay, which I'm not telling you to do, but I always kind of have the standpoint of cut their numbers in half. If you think that, if you want to be a little bit bearish in the capacity that you don't totally believe them, now, granted, management has to execute, right? The company has to execute to achieve some semblance of, of these numbers long term. But look at some of this. Their estimated annual recurring revenues, between 700 million and 1.5 billion from their cytogenics and discovery research. That's if they, I believe, that's if they really execute and kind of get a lion's share of that opportunity. But the recurring revenues are very interesting, and initial sales, etc. Okay, so total sales of 8.5, that was down from 10.1. Okay, so again, this suggests an incredible annual revenue growth opportunities should management's forecast ring true. Okay, again, I'm going to say it, I'm going to keep saying it. Believe it, don't believe it, cut it in half, cut it by 75%. Still massive opportunity. The management still has to execute, but the technology is there, especially with the deal they did that they announced last week with the UK, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that was a major feather in their proverbial cap. Again, to use that metaphor, I don't know where I got that. That's what I've been using forever. It's probably back in the old days when we wore hats and it was a feather, had been a big deal. I don't know. Okay, moving on. Okay, proof will be in the numbers going forward. Yeah, absolutely, right? Okay, so here's the thing. Whether or not they're gonna get to those number of units sold, and that's a multi-year plus forecast, right? Kind of overall total addressable market. You can kind of pause the video and read some of this if you want. But what I liked about this is that the current SAFR system costs approximately $150,000. Product revenues in the year to December 2020 total 6.3 per the graphic, suggesting in the region of 42 devices were sold. Okay, so again, I think that's a number we've talked about previously. So they've got a long runway and a lot of things they're gonna have to do to continue to sell these systems, right? Okay, all right, moving on. We talked about this company's benefited from strong sector tailwinds. I think that there's been growing investor appetite to get back into kind of biotech. The genomics sector is. I thought this was amazing. I didn't know that this was this big. The overall genomics sector is set to expand to $62 billion. That's a compound annual growth rate of 18% from 2018 to 2026. And those are probably the time frames, guys, for some of that, some of that achievable, 2.6 to 3.8 billion dollar market, right? I mean, that's kind of how they're looking at it. Okay, continuing to move forward and kind of look at their overall opportunity. Actually, before we get to that, we're going to talk about kind of, again, still investor appetite. ARK Invest. I didn't know this. The ARK Invest Genomic Revolution ETF that has done better than the NASDAQ 100 in the past 3 to 5 years, which is crazy. If you had invested $10,000 in that ETF, you would have outpaced returns from the NASDAQ 100 over the past 3 to 5 years. And look, there's the graphic, and that's how you would have outpaced it. That's pretty cool. I thought that was interesting and worth noting. So if you want to pause the video and look at that graphic and digest it for your own, there you go. All right. So here's what we're talking about, kind of their competition, right? So that was the overall state of the union. And so now we're going to kind of shift and talk about the risks. Okay, we're looking at the risk associated with what, with Bionano's execution and achieving these numbers we've been chatting about, right? So the first of these risks is stiff competition. They do have competition. They would tell you that they don't, okay? That per this graphic here, they're saying that, hey, they kind of play in this in this market, okay? They really would say that. Now they've compared themselves to like PacBio and some of those guys, so I think there's definitely crossover in this scenario. So you can kind of pause the video if you want and kind of look, but this is where they say, hey, we are in this niche by ourselves, which is that 2.6, $3.8 billion niche. Is there crossover? Do they have competition? Sure they do, but in how much of it's really crossover per se, and will they emerge as the single hands down winner of this particular overall market? I think they've definitely got the opportunity to do that, and they've got the technology and kind of the runway, if you will, to do that. Okay. All right, we talked about crossovers, and again, you can pause the video if you want to read through some of this. There's a ton of content here. I got to keep this fairly short, just obviously not have the video be 30 minutes long. Final risk in relation to Bionano's future growth is ongoing funding and cash burn. I mean, that's absolutely a very real scenario, right? Their cash flow from operating activities is negative $38 million. Per this graphic right here, and the company has had a significant inflow from financing. They've basically offered stock, which could dilute the existing shareholder holdings and may impact negatively. So that's a risk factor. It depends on kind of how you're looking at this. Again, short term versus long term, and kind of moving forward in that scenario. Okay, so let's wrap up with a few final thoughts there. I don't know how long this videos get, but I don't want it to be forever and a day. So I really don't have anything, major that I want to cover in this kind of conclusion wrap-up scenario. I am very bullish on these guys. They've got to execute. They've got to continue to do what they're doing. We've got to get some positive momentum, news, catalysts coming our way. We need to get some additional wins and get those press releases out there. The one last week definitely helped. The stock is somewhat volatile. It moves up and down a little bit, as we've seen from when I looked at the chart. But overall, I think that it's it definitely they have a possibility of $12+ in the next 12 months if things kind of go their way, and we get some nice run ups and things like that. We've also got if the Reddit forums pick up on these guys, start to cover them, we could have movement there, positive and negative. That's both sides of the coin there. So there's a lot of things could happen. I will continue to keep you updated. That's my goal, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing. Drop a like on this video. Helps the video, helps the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Go make some money. See ya.